The British Border Boxing Control ordered Nathan Gorman to face Nick Webb last year for, I think it was the English heavyweight title. And Nick Webb pulled out of that fight with some type of injury, I believe. Later on last year, this seemed to pass me by. I missed this as far as I can remember. But late last year, the British Border Boxing Control then ordered Nick Webb to face Daniel Dubois for the English heavyweight title. And I can't confirm this. This is just what I've seen people say online. So if you can confirm or deny this, then please do so in the comment section below and cite your source. But I'd seen some people online saying that it was actually Daniel Dubois who withdrew from that Nick Webb clash, which was actually supposed to take place by March this year. I think by the end of March this year is when the British Border Boxing Control wanted the fight to take place by. And the purse bid was supposed to be in December. So Frank Warren or whoever was representing Daniel Dubois in this regard decided to withdraw from it. This is what people online are saying. I have no confirmation. I have no source for this. If you do, then please drop it in the comment section below. Now, if it is true that Daniel Dubois withdrew and didn't want to go ahead and face Nick Webb, or his people didn't want it for him, then I guess that kind of goes against what some people are claiming about Daniel Dubois, that he's the next best thing and the best thing since sliced bread and all that kind of business. I don't know how good Daniel Dubois is. As I've said previously, I haven't seen Daniel Dubois fight at a high level in the amateurs the way I saw Anthony Joshua fight at a high level in the amateurs. So I don't really know what Daniel Dubois has. I can't be sure about him starting off his professional career as I was about Joshua, who I was very sure about. So the jury's still out for me in terms of Daniel Dubois. People say he's this tremendous puncher and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, he's been knocking over the people that he's supposed to knock over. But he hasn't really been in there with anybody that's, in any way going to test him. Now, one of his fellow prospects, I'll get to the Nick Webb situation in a second, but one of his fellow prospects is Nathan Gorman. And as you can see on screen, there are people who are very, very high on Daniel Dubois, saying all kinds of things about him. And Nathan Gorman responded to somebody on Twitter by saying, yeah, he's a good lad, mate. I've sparred him hundreds of rounds, but far from a wrecking machine. Suppose time will tell. And Nathan Gorman has tweeted before and said, look, Daniel Dubois knows where I am. If he wants to fight, I'm here. Well, Nathan Gorman doesn't appear to be at all frightened by Daniel Dubois and the reputation that they're building for him in the public arena. He's sparred hundreds of rounds with a guy and doesn't see him as a wrecking machine. And maybe that's testament to how good Nathan Gorman is. Maybe he's just a really, really good fighter. Then again, maybe that's testament to Daniel Dubois' prowess as a fighter being a little overblown by certain fans and maybe by certain people within boxing, like at Box Nation, BT, as promoter Frank Warren, etc. Now, as far as Nick Webb goes, Nick Webb has had a few more fights than Daniel Dubois. So if Dubois did pull out of that clash, maybe you could say that Webb is more experienced, so it's understandable. But Webb isn't being touted the way that Dubois is being touted. Webb is, I think, 11-0, a prospect. He hasn't really fought anybody with a pulse himself. And yeah, he's had a few more fights than Dubois, but given the hype that Dubois is getting, if the hype was real, if they were really as confident in him as they're making out to be, then I don't see why they would pull him out of a clash with Nick Webb, if that is in fact what they did. If they pulled him out, then it must be that they're not as confident privately as they make out to be publicly. And that the public are maybe getting a little bit carried away with Daniel Dubois at this stage. He's a very, very young guy in the game. I think he's only 19 years old. Maybe he's turned 20 recently. I'm not sure. But he's very young in terms of his age. He's very young in terms of his experience. So he's got a long, long way to go. Plenty to learn. I personally think it's way too early to be touting him as the next Anthony Joshua or the guy who's going to come and reign the head. I think it's way too early for all that. He's nowhere near as advanced turning professional as Anthony Joshua was. As I say, Joshua had fought at senior level, at senior international level in the amateurs against the top amateurs in the world in several different competitions. Daniel Dubois hasn't done that at the top level in the amateurs, at least not as a senior. So, you know, he doesn't have Joshua's amateur pedigree turning professional. So there are a lot more questions about him as far as I'm concerned than there was about Anthony Joshua when he turned pro. And if Daniel Dubois was to fight Nick Webb, they're both very big guys. They can both bang. They're both untested. They're both unproven. Nick Webb is a lot older. I think he's 30 years old. Daniel Dubois, as I say, maybe 19, 20. So there's a big age gap there. Would there be a maturity gap mentally? Would Nick Webb hold it together mentally a bit better than Daniel Dubois, the two big guys with a lot of punching power? So, yeah. Again, if you have any information on exactly what happened with the Daniel Dubois, Nick Webb situation, who pulled out, please leave sources in the comment section below and let me know. Enlighten us all. All right. And how do you see that fight going if it does take place? Who would you like to see Daniel Dubois face next? I think his most recent opponent, his next opponent has been announced. It's nobody I can remember hearing of. I did look at the name of the guy briefly. I've forgotten it already. Who do you think after he beats this guy? I think the guy's actually unbeaten, or has he had one loss or something? In fact, let me do an impromptu look at Daniel Dubois' next opponent. You just look at the guy here. Daniel BoxRec. All right, we'll have a look at his BoxRec here. Excuse my third world internet is running very slowly. So it's taking a bit of time for these web pages to load. All right, he's facing a guy called DL Jones, who is 8-0 with one draw. Yeah, this is not likely to go long, is it? A guy who I've never heard of before. He's apparently from Kent. He's 6'5". He's 8-0 with 0 knockouts on his record. What does that tell you? That they're putting Dubois in with a guy with 0 knockouts. So this really is supposed to be a knockover job. The guy that... Okay. Yeah, that's the guy Dubois is fighting next. And oh yeah, I forgot. Nick Webb is actually fighting on the... Let me just double check here. I believe Nick Webb is fighting on the Matchroom show at the O2 on February... Is it February 3rd? Or is it the Dylan White show at the O2? Let me just double check. Yeah, he is fighting on the February 3rd Okolie Chamberlain show. So is Nick Webb a Matchroom guy? Who's actually his promoter? I'm not sure, because he's fighting on a Matchroom show here. Maybe that's the issue with him facing Daniel Dubois. Maybe it was a promotional thing. Maybe that's why whoever pulled out of it, pulled out of the purse bid. So yeah, again, if you have any info, let me know in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.